There we go. How you doing, everybody? Little freeze on the computer there, dealing with some issues. Anyway, welcome in. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Unfortunately, I'm not watching Eagles football, but watching NFL playoff football. And stories galore coming out about your Philadelphia Eagles, most notably the one I just read before the show. That's why I'm a little later than usually late today, so my apologies for that. But let's jump right into it. We got a lot to get to. We got Eagles coaching changes. We got Sirianni Watch. And the story I just read on Bleeding Green Nation by Joe Santoliquito. Now, when I say that name, Joe Santoliquito, I understand some people might jump back to a story that he wrote 5 years ago on Carson Wentz and how that story started to really become the beginning of the end for Carson Wentz. It really shed a lot of light on Carson Wentz behind the scenes, this kind of golly gee willikers shucks kind of guy that we knew as the Eagles quarterback. Wasn't exactly that guy behind the scenes, including an argument he had with a veteran like Darren Sproles while they were both injured, while the Eagles finished off their Super Bowl run in the year that Sproles and Carson Wentz went down as the Eagles went on to win that Super Bowl. It let a lot of people know what was going on at the NovaCare complex. It wasn't everything that we thought it was, unfortunately. It was a lot more on the negative side. So I was reading this story by Joe, and Joe was, oh my goodness gracious, Joe was vilified. Joe Santoliquito was vilified after he wrote that story. And then it turned out he was on the right side of history, I guess you could say. So then this story comes out, and it dropped around 10 o'clock last night. If you're looking for it, good gosh. Bleeding Green Nation put the story out last night, 8 hours ago. It's 6:31, and math is hard right now. But a closer look at the 2023 Eagles' historic collapse on Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, the defensive coordinator change. So I take a gander at it before the show, and I say, hey, what could this be about? Well, this is what it could be about. Actually, let's start with that second. Let's start with this one here. One source on the team described Jalen Hurts as a, quote, good dude who sometimes does not realize the times that he's acting like a Prima-donna jerk. Multiple sources close to and inside the Eagles confirm this. Teammates wanted to include him in functions. Hurts would wave them off. He's been described as detached, stoic, isolated, unapproachable at times. Not great. Not great. Now, let me acknowledge the fact that this is high school drama bull. And I hate that this is a story, but it's a story, especially when 5 years ago, we just went through the demise of another guy that was anointed the franchise quarterback in Carson Wentz, mainly because the guy didn't know how to be a good teammate. So here's a saving grace to it, at least. Good Lord. It was emphatically stated, according to numerous sources, that Hurts is not like the other guy, Carson Wentz. Okay, that's a positive. He's not exactly Mr. Personality, but he's someone who will get up when he's knocked down, get up stronger, and he will do it on his own. One source said this about Hurts. He won't ask for help. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. From what I know, the other guy, Carson Wentz, he wouldn't get up at all or blame someone else why he got knocked down. All right, so at least we pull that away from it that he's not Carson Wentz. But I hate the idea of Jalen Hurts being looked at as anything other than a great leader or a great teammate or even a good dude in the locker room. Even when it's, oh, yeah, he's a good dude, but he could be a prima-donna jerk. Well, that's really telling me two different things in the same sentence. And the second thing kind of makes me lean towards the idea that he doesn't have all the respect in the world in that Eagles locker room. The story goes on to then detail Jalen Hurts as a guy that could be a better leader. It goes on to detail other things that now hit me kind of strange. If guys jumped over the line, like in the Giants game, in the last game of the regular season, guy jumps over the line, gets a flag, hits Jalen Hurts, and nobody does anything. Like Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, Jordan Mailata, nobody. Nobody goes up to the Giants player and grabs him and like, oh, get off my quarterback. Like that's, looking back on it, okay, that's kind of weird. And then this one in the Buccaneers game, which when I was in the green room with Seth Joyner, Bill Colarulo, and Mike Missinelli for the pregame show for the postgame show for Jacob Media, if you remember, they had that right before Jalen Hurts took that awful safety. There's an opportunity where Kenny Gainwell is breaking the ball to the other side, and Jalen Hurts has the opportunity to at least step in there and make a block, and he kind of olays it a little bit. The argument. He's a quarterback. He's a franchise quarterback. You want him blocking. You want him getting hurt. Then the playoffs are done. Yes. Okay. Obviously. But then there's the other thing, as apparently it was looked at in the locker room a little bit, where Jalen Hurts at least got to get in the guy's way. He ended up bringing down Kenny Gainwell for a loss. And then 2 plays later, Jalen Hurts takes that horrendous safety against the Buccaneers in the playoffs. At the time, you could go either way, whether or not he makes the block, whether or not he does it. But then you think about the locker room. The locker room wants to see their quarterback at least go out there and make a play. He didn't on both fronts, unfortunately. Didn't make a play with his arm, didn't make a play with his leg, didn't make a play with his body in terms of trying to make a block, and then ended up taking the safety on the same possession. So not great. Not great. It's things that happen within the context, things that happen within the season or within a game, and you just go, I can see either or, whatever. And apparently it has a little bit of a ripple effect in the Eagles locker room. This is, either way, not the story that I want to read, not the story I want to talk about, not the story I want to see at the end of a season that already had enough disappointment. But the worry and the concern about Jalen Hurts potentially not being the greatest teammate in the world, does it hit you right after what went down with Carson Wentz? And yes, he's not Carson Wentz. Okay, great. But I don't like the fact that this guy that was supposed to be, this good fella in the locker room, helping guys out, wanting to be coached hard. I don't like the idea of a negative story coming out about the guy's personality. That's on the heels of the Ralph Vacchiano story of Fox Sports saying that Jalen Hurts didn't really get on the same page at any point this season with Brian Johnson, as we talked about briefly last week. None of this is good. None of this is great. And what drives me crazy is that we don't need this kind of negativity. We don't need this kind of story. We don't need it. But and look, I give Joe San Liquido a lot of credit for 5 years ago telling us what we didn't want to hear, but what we needed to hear. Those are people I want in my corner, to be quite frank. So when I listen to this story, when I read this story, rather, I don't need after a 6 of 7, after you drop 6 of 7 to end the season, and I see all that negativity, I don't need all this stuff to be aired out at the end of the season. I'd rather be it explained. I'd rather have it explained as we're going through the suffering. Not everybody coming out of the woodwork after the fact being like, well, Jalen needs to do this, and Jalen needs to do that. And he needs to be a better leader, and he's stoic, and he's unapproachable, and he can be a prima-donna jerk, where's that door? Where's people calling other people out? Like, this is what was so disappointing, in all honesty, about the A.J. Brown conversation, the 13-minute press junction that he had in his locker after he didn't talk for 2+ weeks. Yeah, he said all the right things. He said all the nice things, and that's great, and that's fine. He's a good teammate, and he's had people's backs. He had his coach's backs and all that. But it wasn't highlighting the truth. That's why I highlighted so many times the Hassan Reddick quotes about the defense and, if the offensive coordinator wants to make a change, then, if the higher-ups want to make a change at defensive coordinator, then that's what they're going to do. If they want to drop me back in coverage 7 times, fine, all right. I thought that was a lot more telling, at least, and validating to us as fans, as media members. They were like, hold on, this isn't right. It doesn't look right. And now this guy's telling me it ain't right. Meanwhile, A.J. Brown's like, hey, man, we're good. Everything's cool. Everything's going to be fixed. Well, where's this stuff during the season when it comes to Jalen Hurts? If he is this kind of teammate where guys look at him as if he's unapproachable, as if the story also highlights how the money, quote, changed him. It also talks about how a little bit of that banquet tour might have gotten to Jalen Hurts. I have to take some responsibility. I hosted the Maxwells this year. I was right there at a banquet with them. But it talks about how you have a guy like, and the guy that always gets brought up whenever you talk about a banquet tour is Cole Hamels in 2009. Comes out of the 2008 World Series championship, does the banquet circuit, then he's back in 2009, has a horrible year. The story doesn't make that comparison, but I'm making that comparison because that's the one that always jumps to mind for people of my experience. So looking at Jalen Hurts, the one saving grace here is about how he just wants to be better. And that's all that matters. Because you're going to rub people the wrong way in every locker room. Not everyone's going to be holding hands and talking about puppy dogs and ice cream. You know what I'm saying? People are going to have their differences in any workplace, not just a locker room. So the fact that he is the type of guy that will at least pick himself up, he is the type of guy that will attack, he is the type of guy that apparently will be coached hard by all accounts, then you can have confidence in him at least having a bounce back season. To get away from the high school drama BS for a second, the other thing the story goes into is where was this guy's help? Where was Jalen Hurts' help, especially against the blitz? third highest blitzed quarterback, third most blitzed quarterback in the NFL this season. And the Eagles still didn't draw up hot routes. Nick Sirianni didn't know hot routes. Brian Johnson, hot route? No, nothing. It's bubble screens and whatnots. That doesn't help a quarterback out. Story also describes after week 7, which was the win over the Dolphins, Jalen Hurts went to the sleeve on his knee, and he was not the same quarterback throughout the season, unfortunately. We would see bursts of it throughout the year, little tiny bursts of it. The Rams game, he took another hit in the Rams game. He went and scrambled for that game-winning touchdown on the run against the Bills in overtime. We saw scrambling. We saw running. We saw mobility. We saw certainly at times this season where he didn't look like the same mobile, agile quarterback that we had seen in his 2 previous seasons. And this year, it seemed like it was few and far between that you really saw that. More often than not, when he had to rely on his agility, it was him escaping a blitz. We don't know, and this is where the rub comes. We don't know if this is all coaching from Jalen Hurts, where they tell him, we like those deep shots down the field. We love your arm. Keep on taking those deep shots. Instead of the controlled game where you move the ball down the field gradually with short throws. Not just short throws where I'm talking about the line of scrimmage with bubble screens, but I'm talking about guys coming out of the backfield, wheel routes, hot routes, drag routes, things like that can help your quarterback, not get hit. And maybe tell the opposing defense, hey, maybe not blitz so much because we're going to burn you time and time and time and time again. Never happened this season. Wildly unfortunate that never happened. So where's the help? Story also talks about last year being the first year for Jalen Hurts where he actually had an offensive coordinator for a second consecutive season. First time since high school. Maybe during the season, in retrospect, we didn't give Jalen Hurts or this Eagles offense enough grace when it came to that, where it really helped Jalen Hurts a year ago have, oh my goodness, back-to-back years with the same play caller? That seems like it shouldn't matter. But apparently it matters a little bit. And it mattered to Jalen Hurts this past year. Can't get on the same page as a guy. Maybe he needs that second year with him. Which brings me to the real news, the football news, and not just the drama and guys that wanted to wait to the end of the season to open their mouths about what was going on with Jalen Hurts behind the scenes, personality-wise, and also what was going on with this coaching staff when it came to Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson not helping out their quarterback, who was the third most blitz quarterback in the league. The coaching changes. A lot of times when you say something, you don't want to be right. You root to be wrong. A perfect example is me picking the Bucs to beat the Eagles. I didn't want them to beat the Eagles, but they were going to beat the Eagles, and they beat the Eagles, unfortunately in the playoffs. Friday's show, I talked at length about how watch the only change being made. The only change being made in this offseason is your defensive coordinator. News broke yesterday. Sean Desai was fired. Who was he fired by? He was fired by Nick Sirianni. I found it very interesting that when Ian Rappaport put that out there, he said, Nick Sirianni fires Sean Desai. I was like, really? Nick Sirianni did that. He did that. That's interesting. Did he do that without talking to Jeffrey Lurie? Did he talk to Jeffrey Lurie? Because I know when Jeffrey Lurie was coming back from his lovely stay in the islands there at St. Martin, they were supposed to have a meeting, and I don't know if they had a meeting. We were supposed to get news on Friday. What the hell was going on with Nick Sirianni? What was going on with this football team? No news. Nothing. So then it comes out yesterday that Nick Sirianni fired Sean Desai. Well, that's funny because if he was sticking around, they wouldn't make him fire the guy, right? No, they wouldn't do that. And Matt Patricia was only on a one-year deal, so technically he wasn't fired, just renewed. Or excuse me, just wasn't renewed. So the Eagles are looking for a new defensive coordinator. Diana Rossini of ESPN put it out there saying that Wink Martindale is a red-hot coaching candidate to take over as the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's enjoy this for a second. Let's bask in this for a second, okay? Wink Martindale tells Brian Daboll, after Brian Daboll fired defensive assistants after the season was over, Wink Martindale goes to Brian Daboll and basically goes, you can go to hell, go bleep yourself, deuces, I'm out of here. How lovely would it be if all of a sudden Wink Martindale is the defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles and he gets to extend a nice little extra middle finger to the New York Giants, coaching against them in their own division? Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. I would love that. And for us as aggressive, crazed, blitz happy fan base that wants to see the quarterback running for their life all the damn time, not our quarterback, opposing quarterback, run for their life all the damn time, Wink Martindale is very appealing here in Philadelphia. Very appealing here in Philadelphia. Another name that's been thrown out there, and this one was also by Darius Slay during locker cleanout day, is NOT Wilson, who was here in Philadelphia as a DB's coach. And somehow Nick Sirianni said, nope, don't like you. Deuces. Fired him. Didn't renew him, whatever. He ends up going to D.C. to be the same position. Oh, shoot, not D.C. The Baltimore Ravens to be the same position, essentially. And now, potentially, could be back. I don't know how that went behind the scenes. I don't know if it was I doubt it was a heated exchange between Nick Sirianni and Wilson saying, hey, you're out of here. I don't like you. When other players wanted him to stay on as the defensive coordinator, and they decided to go outside the organization. And apparently, according to other people, that was very much, surprisingly, Nick Sirianni's decision to go with Sean Desai and not Wilson. Odd. And not only that, but also bring in Matt Patricia as the, in case of emergency, break glass type of guy behind the scenes. And then when finally Sirianni had enough, I guess, of the defense after the San Francisco 49ers game, they started to make that transition. And then, of course, the Cowboys game happened, and then they just completed that transition where it was no longer Sean Desai calling the plays. He keeps the defensive coordinator title, and Matt Patricia takes over for the final 4 games. That is an ultimate panic move. And for a guy that, by the way, and Nick Sirianni, if this truly was his decision, for a guy like Nick Sirianni, if he was going to go out there and make that change, you better be right. But also for a guy like Nick Sirianni, who was supposed to be a great players coach and really understand the pulse and vibe of the locker room. Horrible job running the team from a defensive perspective. Now, is he the defensive coordinator? No, by any means. Is he an offensive-minded head coach? Yes, let's acknowledge that before I get into this even further. But Nick Sirianni, what an atrocious job of handling your defense. First, you don't hire the guy that a lot of the players apparently vouched for in NOT Wilson. Not great. Then you bring in Sean Desai, a one-time defensive coordinator elsewhere who was coming off a assistant role under Pete Carroll in Seattle, and you bring him in and you give him the keys to the kingdom. He made second half adjustments, which is fine. Third down defense, not great all year. Okay. So then, as things start to get worse and worse with the defense, you're starting to get more itchy and more itchy to make a decision, make a change. You get beat up by the 49ers in the biggest measuring stick game you had during the season. Then you get blown out by the Dallas Cowboys, and then you finally pull the trigger. And you say, and this is the most egregious thing that Nick Sirianni did this season in terms of being that good players coach. He fires Sean Desai, takes away play calling from him, and the change he makes is to the defensive side of the ball to give them a new defensive play caller. That is telling your defense, we are 10-3 at that point. 10-3 at that point. We're 10-3 in spite of you. We'd be better. We'd be better than 10-3 if you guys weren't so god awful. That's what it tells your defense. That's supposed to be a coach that has his finger on the pulse of the locker room. Flatlining. It's no wonder the team themselves flatlined after that. Absolutely abysmal, absolutely atrocious. And now you might be bringing in somebody in either Wilson or you might be bringing in somebody in Wink Martindale that maybe this defense can get up for. Maybe this defense can be excited about. But, man, it's very disappointing after what we watched to end the season, to now hear BS that comes out afterwards. Whether that's about the coaching staff, whether that's players talking about the coaching staff like Darius Slay was talking about Wilson, whether it's sources in the locker room, sources on the team as referenced in the Bleeding Green Nation story. Here it is on social media if you guys want to take a gander at it later, whatever. And then seeing your quarterback being described as stoic, isolated, and unapproachable. This isn't this is terrible. I didn't need anything else to pile on to the crap sandwich that we had at the end of this season. A season that, as we know, it began with so much hope. And then here you are, beaten by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team that battled the Lions, excuse me, for the most part, right down to the wire there in Detroit before, they put it away, I should say. And here we are watching the Detroit Lions go into the NFC Championship game. We did have one thing over the weekend. We did have one thing we could enjoy over the weekend. Did you enjoy this? Because I enjoyed this. For the people on the podcast, I am now showing a bare-chested Jason Kelce celebrating a touchdown by his brother Travis Kelce in the AFC Divisional Round playoffs, Chiefs and Bills last night in Buffalo. Now I enjoyed that. I thought that was great. I know there's some there's people that'll poo-poo that, and there are people that'll be like, you can't have you do that. You're too excited for the Chiefs wearing a Chiefs hat. It's his brother. No issue whatsoever. Then Jason Kelce hops over the barrier from the suite, walks down amongst the people. I'm watching another fan base fall in love with our guy. He's walking around. He's picking up kids. A little girl that had, I think it was a little girl that had a Taylor Swift sign. Well, we're going to make sure Taylor sees this. He picks her up and shows Taylor Swift. That's beautiful. That's lovely. That made me feel good about stuff. The other stuff did not make me feel good. Did not make me feel good. And to wake up to a story again about the Eagles quarterback behind the scenes was not great. It was not great. To wake up to a story that also highlighted other things, like, for instance, Joe covers it all here, from the defensive side of things to offensive coaching and to Jalen Hurts himself. It's all covered in the story. One of the things is what the message was after you fired your defensive coordinator, essentially. And despite what Hassan Reddick said, which was it was the higher-ups that wanted to make that move, there are certain people on the team that feel like that was, in fact, Sirianni's decision. I don't believe that. I can't believe for a second that he would be that out of touch. As I highlighted, he's supposed to be a great players coach and all that stuff. I can't for a second assume that he would be that out of touch to make that change at that moment. That seems like somebody who does not have their hands on the locker room. That seems like somebody who is looking at numbers from afar, from the bird's eye view, the owner's box. That's where that kind of move comes from, in my opinion. And also using as Exhibit A as evidence, Hassan Reddick saying that move came from the higher-ups. So that's uncomfortable. That's unnerving. And then here's one thing we can do. You can look at that at the end of the season. You can look at a story like this on Jalen Hurts. You can look at just overall, look back over the season and just see how he was never helped out as a quarterback, especially when facing the blitz. And you can also look at first time, even though we knew Brian Johnson forever, and this was my point before the season, just because he's known Brian Johnson since he was 4 years old doesn't make Brian Johnson and him simpatico when it comes to play caller and quarterback. That is something you do not know until those two people do that together. They did it together. They were still a top 7 offense, as people want to throw in your face. But were they really that even at the end of the year? Because that seemed like it went away. It went away against the 49ers, the Cowboys, went away in the second half against the Giants. It certainly went away in pretty much the entire game against the Seattle Seahawks. Went away against the Cardinals. Went away against the Giants again. And then, vanished. Vanished against the Buccaneers in the postseason. And that was the scariest thing. The biggest mismatch in that game was Todd Bowles' defense against Jalen Hurts. Todd Bowles against Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson. Bet you won't draw up a hot route. Sacked. Safety. Jalen Hurts running for his life. After everything we saw unfold, we didn't need the drama on top of it. And still, one of the biggest pieces of drama of this offseason, of this very young offseason for the Eagles, is Nick Sirianni, who has not been fired. Jeffrey Lurie, who has not addressed the media. The only thing we're getting is news leaking out from reporters saying that Sean Desai is out. Matt Patricia has not been renewed. The Ralph Vecchiano story of last week saying that Jalen Hurts wants to do his own thing, basically. And now this story from Joe Santoliquito on the Eagles quarterback. That's it. That's what we're getting. We have Jalen Hurts last week. I played the soundbite for you where he said he wants to run it back with Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson. He wants to fix this offense with those two, both that head coach and his offensive coordinator. All right, let's hope that the second year is the charm. It was with Shane Steichen. Maybe it'll be the same thing with Brian Johnson. Let's cross our fingers for that. But still no word from Jeffrey Lurie on the head coach. Now, no news from Jeffrey Lurie is good news for Nick Sirianni, because you're not coming out saying you're not firing somebody. That would be an acknowledgement that it was ever thought about. Jeffrey Lurie's not going to come out and be like, I'm not. I just want to tell you guys that move that everybody wants to happen, it's not happening. I'm going to go back to St. Martin now. Everyone have a great day. I have my decision down to 2 yachts. I like the one with the built-in hot tub. I don't like the one so much that has only the inflatable lifeboat after, hanging off the side. I don't like that one. That to me looks like panic. Funny thing about panic, Jeffrey Lurie. A lot of people are doing that in Philadelphia right now. So here we are. There's 2 things from last week. 1, Sirianni being fired. 2, Jason Kelce retire. Okay. Jason Kelce retiring just to have some funsies with something else other than Nick Sirianni. Okay. This has nothing to do with watching him bare-chested like a conquering Scandinavian hero, whatever. This has nothing to do with that. Nothing. I am leaning towards the idea that Jason Kelce is not done. Saw the report from Shefty. I expected shortly thereafter the story to come out from Jason Kelce saying, that's it. Him announce it maybe on his New Heights podcast. Didn't do that. Said he needs to take some time. He's thinking about it. As of literally Friday, I was like, he's retiring. He's probably retiring. He's going to retire. He's retiring, right? And I was like, hold on a second. If Jason Kelce, if anyone on that Eagles team, of the core 4, whether it's Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson's obviously not retiring. I would expect Fletcher Cox to move on elsewhere. Just had a great year. Other teams have eyed him for a while. I think the Jets were really interested in him last year. He can make that easy trip up the Garden State Parkway, right? Brandon Graham would come back, I think, on a discounted deal for that farewell tour. But of all the guys, really, of the 3 that are really in danger of retiring, Jason Kelce being one of them, obviously, Jason Kelce, coming off an all-pro year, is going to hang it up. And if they're running it back with Nick Sirianni, and Jason Kelce just said all the glowing things that he said about Nick Sirianni. Nick Sirianni is a winner, all that stuff that he said last week. We played it for you here on the show. If that's all true, then maybe he does want to come back. Does he really want this to be the last year? Does he really want this to be the way it goes down? This is the way you walk off the field? It certainly looked like that's what was going to happen when he did walk off the field in Tampa. He looked pretty upset, pretty emotional. Didn't address the media. Schefter tweeted the story. I wonder if that also sticks in his craw a little bit, that Adam Schefter kind of ruined a little bit of that for him. Maybe he wants to come back just for that reason. And also to win. And also it's a well-paying gig. Let's not forget about that either. So I'm now more in the realm of he might not. Like, I was pretty sure. I think I put it at 95% last week. I'm going to put it at, I'm now like 75% sure he's going to retire. It's a 20% uptick in chance that he comes back. But it's got nothing to do with crushing beers and being in Buffalo last night and watching his brother. It's got nothing to do with that. It's got more to do with like really reflecting more on things he said about Nick Sirianni, and now that it looked like Nick Sirianni is going to be back. It's got more to do with that than anything. Because again, Jeffrey Lurie is not going to hold a press conference saying that he's done. Jeffrey Lurie is not holding a press conference, saying that, oh no, I'm not firing Nick Sirianni. Everything's status quo. Everything's great. And now it's like, well, when are we going to hear from Jeffrey Lurie? Because he's not going to comment on coaching changes as far as coordinators go. He's not going to walk you through the process of what Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman are doing to reach out to other coaches around the league. But what I said on Friday looks like it's actually going to happen. It looks like, and by the way, because this was very curious. I saw a lot of people were questioning me on this. So I think I have this in my file. I can just pull this up for you guys real quick. But Is this it? I hope this is it. I hope I labeled this right. Not like an idiot. But it was an interesting thing, and it was from Jalen Hurts last week when he was at his locker, and he was talking about his head coach, and he was talking about Brian Johnson. And people will just want to clean house. If Nick's back, then they don't want to have they don't want to have Brian Johnson back. They don't want Sean Desai back. Obviously, they don't want Matt Patricia back. If Sirianni stays, the coordinator position has to go. Both coordinator positions have to go. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. It looks like you are, in fact, going to have Nick Sirianni. I think this is the cut. It's loading now. It looks like you're going to have Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni back. And Jalen Hurts said at his locker last week, and I quoted it on social media, that Jalen Hurts wants Sirianni and Brian Johnson back. We're like, where did he say this? We're like, at his locker. It's amazing what happens when you watch them at their locker, what they say at the end of the year. He wants to fix this offense with those two players, those two pieces intact. Okay. Let's see how that works out for you. Because the only thing, if you're really grasping at straws of hope, if you're really trying to be Paulie Pom-Poms, it's not that outlandish. After the success you had in the second year with Shane Steichen and how much better the team was in that second year of Shane Steichen, it's not outlandish to think that you might have that same type of leap and uptick with Brian Johnson in year two as the play caller for Jalen Hurts. The only problem that I have is that it really does go beyond that. And this is why I was out on Nick Sirianni. This is why I am out on Nick Sirianni. As the head coach and an offensive mind, the guy heading up the game plan, where was the help? One of the other things that Joe Santaquino talks about in the story on Bleeding Green Nation this morning is A.J. Brown had that historic stretch, 6 straight games, 125 plus yards. Nobody else had ever done that in the history of the NFL. He did it. That was great. Then where did it go? Teams adjusted to it. They shut him down. Where's the help in trying to scheme a guy like that open again? This is another thing that makes me have a little bit more confidence in next year as well. If you're grasping at straws to be Paulie Pom-Poms, it's not that much of a stretch to go this direction either. So you go the direction of Brian Johnson having 1 year under his belt as a play caller for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts having 1 year under his belt already of Brian Johnson being his play caller. So a little bit more experience, a little bit more simpatico, hopefully going into year two, like you saw under Shane Steichen. The next thing that you look for after that is the league adjusted to Jalen Hurts. Now Jalen Hurts has to adjust to the league. This is the game you play. And I know that we all got caught up by what we saw last year with Jalen Hurts. And I don't even call it caught up. I mean, that was amazing what we saw. So I refer to it with Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey taking a damn near Hurtsian leap with his level of play, watching him play for the Sixers. Taking a damn near Hurtsian leap, what we're seeing. Well, this year, Jalen Hurts took that step back. He regressed. There's no other way to look at it. Now, is it just on him? No, absolutely not. He regressed because, well, he regressed, and then the team regressed. The coaching regressed around him. So now, and this is, again, going back to the point about why I'm out on Nick Sirianni, where was the help for either scheming A.J. Brown back open? Where was the help when Jalen Hurts is being attacked more than almost any other quarterback in the NFL? Only 2 other quarterbacks were attacked more on the blitz than Jalen Hurts. Where's the help there? Then Jalen Hurts has to help himself. And this was, and I didn't get too much into it last week, but this is what rubbed me the wrong way about the Ralph Vecchiano story from Fox Sports. Jalen Hurts improvising, kind of doing his own thing, calling his own plays, changing the plays at the line of scrimmage. Every quarterback should be entitled to do that. It's a right to do that. You're the one standing there looking out what's in front of you going like, I don't like it. Do something else. That's fine. My problem is when you see the repetitive nature of the Eagles offense, if you're checking down, that means you're checking down to things that you're going to be more comfortable doing. And this goes back to Shane Steichen. This has nothing to do with Brian Johnson. If you remember a game last year, the Eagles played the Arizona Cardinals in Arizona. Cameron Dicker, the kicker. Is he San Diego now? I forget where the hell he is. But anyway, it was the one game Jake Elliott was hurt, and Cameron Dicker was in that game, and he ended up kicking the game-winning field goal. But in that game, in the second half in particular, it was wide receiver screen, tight end screen, wide receiver screen, tight end screen. And what is Steichen doing? And I'm like, is this just like the comfort zone of Jalen Hurts? Sure enough, after that game, during the week, you hear Nick Sirianni talk about it. You hear Shane Steichen talk about it. How, those are things that we like. I think the question was, what was with all the screens? Like this was before bitching about bubble screens and tight end screens and all that stuff. This is before bitching about it was trendy. This is when it was new. Okay, this is when it was new age. And sure enough, Steichen even acknowledged, yeah, Jalen Hurts pretty comfortable checking down to those plays. So we got to do a better job of like making a little bit more creativity and bringing in creativity and maybe bringing another option for Jalen Hurts on those types of plays. So through this season, I referenced that from Shane Steichen because we saw so many bubble screens. We saw so many tight end screens. This could be Jalen Hurts. This could be his check down. Like, what is Brian Johnson going to do in a press conference afterwards? Be like, I don't know what to tell you. This is just what Jalen does. No, he's not going to do it as a first-year coordinator. That's not going to happen. So I always talked about the four people to blame, whether it's like Jeffrey Lurie in the front office, and when I say front office, I mean I include Howie and I include the analytics department, the Nick Sirianni and his game plan, Brian Johnson, and Jalen Hurts. When I talk about the groups to blame, Jalen Hurts takes a big part of that too. It's not just Jalen Hurts, just doing whatever the hell he damn well pleases all the time. There is a game plan that goes into it. When that game plan hits the fan, Jalen Hurts does what he wants. That's what the report was essentially from Ralph Vecchiano of Fox Sports. That is a concern to me. And maybe that's why you did see the repetitive nature again of bubble screens. Because maybe while he wasn't comfortable with Brian Johnson and his play calling, maybe while he wasn't comfortable with Nick Sirianni and his game plan that they installed during the week, he just checked to whatever the hell made him comfortable. Knowing two things. One, he's comfortable throwing that screen ball, that screen pass. Two, he know the team loves the shots downfield, so he took shots downfield. The Seattle game is the most glaring, horrifying, obvious example of that. The two throws. People focus on the interception at the end of the game. Not even close to the worst play. The worst play was the ball deep downfield with 8:15 left in the game, and he throws the interception. He was looking for Quez Watkins. Not my favorite. Don't like that already. But what was by far the worst wasn't the fact that he was going for Quez Watkins. What was the worst was that he made that throw. With 8:15 left, up 4 points, and you had the ball at the 40-yard line, bleed that clock, baby. Keep driving the ball. Where's the run play? Where's the handoff? Where's the toss? Where's that? 1st and 10, 8:15 remaining in the Seattle game. You're up 4 points. You have the ball in their territory. You take a shot down the field to Quez Watkins that gets intercepted. No, thank you. Oh, and also there was a check down. There's a check down available. I think Kenny Gainwell was also open at the line of scrimmage. I can force it down there, or bloop, there's 3 yards on the 1st and 10 while I'm trying to bleed the clock. Again, I hate even bringing up the regression for Jalen Hurts because then, it's such easy fodder. Like just talking about a quarterback is such easy fodder. And I hate it because it steals. It's like a spicy headline. It just steals all the, it focuses all the blame on one thing when there is so much blame to go around. Did Jalen Hurts regress? Absolutely. Everything regressed around him. And that's the unfortunate thing. And I'm curious to see next year whether or not they can bounce back and take that step forward again. I'm curious to see whether or not they could go into next year and have the same type of year that they had a year ago. Okay, second year, same offensive play caller. Second year with the Sirianni to Brian Johnson to Jalen Hurts connection. Let's hope they all work that out. I think this is Jalen Hurts talking about how he wants to fix it with everybody.
You mentioned the confidence you have in Nick just a second ago. I guess, do you want him back as head coach?
I said owners own, coaches coach, and players play. I answered that question the other day, and I don't know if you asked me something the other day about, and I said, what did I say?
It's like you didn't know. Yeah.
Like you didn't know. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was a thing. So I don't see why that wouldn't be the case. We plan on fixing everything that we've done and growing together. Coach Sirianni, Brian, everyone.
Coach Sirianni, Brian, everyone. There it was talking about all that. Good God, people. Good God. I know it's going to be one hell of a chat check today, so I'm going to get to that in a second. I'm going to reset the table with some people that might be just joining us. But first, I want to tell you guys about the Game Time app. Want to go to a game? Want to go to a concert? Want to go to a sporting event? Download the Game Time app to your phone. Use promo code Farzy and get $20 off your first purchase. Buy a group of tickets, you get $20 off your first purchase when you use the Game Time app and use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy in the Game Time app. Ticket brokers, this is the best, baby. Game Time app. Make sure you download it to your phone. Have yourself a good time. Flash ticket deals, ultimate savings with last-minute ticket deals. Also, ticket deals an hour after the event starts. So you miss a headliner for the big show. Excuse me. So you miss the opening act for a big show. So what? Come on. Big-time savings. Also, your Game Time guarantee. You'll find another app that has a ticket in the same section and same row for less money. Game Time app is all over it with 110% of the difference guaranteed. So guaranteed lowest price at the Game Time app. So check out the Game Time app. Game Time app. Promo code Farzy. Promo code Farzy on the Game Time app, and we'll save you $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app to your phone, create an account, use promo code Farzy, and bang, you're good to go with the Game Time app. Let's get into the chat check and see. Oh, here, before I get to the chat check, I will reset the table for people just joining us a little bit later in the show. This was from Joe Santoliquido's story. You can read it on Bleeding Green Nation. One source on the team described Hurts as a good dude who sometimes does not realize the times he's acting like a prima-donna jerk. The person quoted, for the people on the podcast that can't read this, acting like a prima-donna expletive. We'll use the word jerk. Multiple sources close to and inside the Eagles confirm this. Teammates wanted to include him in functions. Hurts would wave them off. He's been described as detached, stoic, isolated, and unapproachable. But here's the saving grace, all right? It was emphatically stated, according to numerous sources, that Hurts is not like the other guy being Carson Wentz. He is not exactly Mr. Personality, but he's someone who will get up when he's knocked down, get up stronger, and he will do it on his own. One source said about Hurts, he won't ask for help. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. From what I know of the other guy, he wouldn't get up at all or blame someone else. Or he would blame somebody else when he got knocked down. So there you go. That's what we talked about a lot today. And then just one more time before I get to the chat check, but who doesn't want to see a bare-chested Jason Kelce one more time? You're welcome. All right, let's see how you beautiful people are doing on this fine morning. Wow, you guys coming in with the piping hot. April's the first one up here. April, what's up? Good morning. How are you? Nice to see you. Sean Gillespie, good morning. What's good, Farzy? These stories are wild, says King DV Sports. They are wild. They are insane. April, there was some great football this weekend. April, thank you. You know what? That's going to be in our morning rush today. That's going to be in our morning rush because we will talk about some great football this weekend. Because this was the first weekend since the season started, really, that I didn't have to, other than read some articles, I could just chill, man. Could watch some football. You know what I did this weekend? I'm going to tell you guys what I did this weekend. I watched football and consumed alcohol. I don't ever do that. You know when I do it? When the Eagles make an early playoff exit. That's pretty much the only time I do it. I drank whiskey, and I made myself some nachos. I had a wonderful weekend. Let's see, Sean. Packers games, Bills and Packers games. Damn, so close, rooting for both. I was too. The Packers. Oh, my God, the Packers. How did Jordan... Oh, no, I'm going to get to this. Oh, no, I'll get to it now. The hell with it. How did Jordan Love throw that ball at the end of the game? How did Jordan Love throw that ball? Stupid. He'd been playing brilliant football. And then he lets that one rip in the middle of the field in the triple coverage. Dude, what the hell? Not great. Not great. Brian Dubois. Is that how you say that? Here we go again. Rihanna. Here we go. Oh, damn. None of these explains the Eagles' scheme and play calling, which was predictable and horrendous. Big Ben? I concur. Oh, boy. Send it, says. Send it. Nice catch, by the way. Nice picture there. I don't think it's bull. He carry himself that way. He seems like he got paid and doesn't care anymore. The story does quote the word change, saying that the money in the contract changed Jalen Hurts. We sucked on both sides of the ball. That's true. That's true. That's Bill Spadaro. What? Eagles looked elementary, unqualified coaching staff. These are frivolous stories that don't mean a thing, says Big Ben. Really? I mean, the best thing I read in the story was that he's not Carson Wentz. So that's good. No blitz, no press coverage, no 9-man fronts. We sucked. Yep. Robert Dubois. Steichen was the offense. He left. They went south. Yep. You can say it. Forget about it. Great name. Jalen had to be hurt since the Dolphins game. So where is this article? We would love to read it. Oh, Jalen had to be hurt since the Dolphins game. Where's this article? Bleeding Green Nation. You can check it out on Twitter as well. Is this Jalen Wentz, guys? I don't see. I do think that, and I know people, Sean Kilmer, good morning. I know a lot of people will jump to that conclusion. And I did when I started reading it. I was like, oh God, oh God, oh God. And then I literally saw it put out there, not Carson Wentz. I was like, okay, cool. And then it also talks about how other things failed within the organization. This piece is not just about Jalen Hurts. It's about the whole 2023 season. Tom Brady was notoriously a hard guy to get along with in person, and he got 6 championships. Tom Brady was also a guy that crushed beers with his offensive linemen in a beer chugging contest. I don't believe it. Hurts isn't perfect, but he's not this. I want to believe that. I want to believe that too. Here's send it. Blame everybody but the garbage. See, I don't think Jalen Hurts. I still have a lot of hope for Jalen Hurts. This article, all it does is raise awareness. It doesn't make me horribly concerned for next year. Because guess what? If he plays well and they win, nobody gives a damn. I think Brian Johnson forgot the middle of the field actually exists. I think, I do put a lot of that on Jalen Hurts too, because it's not like they didn't have anybody running over the middle of the field. But I think a lot of that goes on the quarterback too. Quarterback's best friend, Joe Matty, is the stud running back. Eagles are going to be in search of a running back next year, because if you're DeAndre Swift, you are not signing here. I think Jalen holds part of the blame as the franchise quarterback. I agree. You know, that was another thing. I thought you were going to go somewhere else with this, Dank. The other thing here, wait, hold on a second. Let me get Buddy Christ in here. What's up, Buddy Christ? Bless you, my son. Thanks for the content. You're welcome, Buddy Christ. Thank you. Jalen Hurts holds part of the blame as the franchise quarterback. Yes. The article also talks about Jalen Hurts holding the ball too long, which is a classic, of course, knock of any quarterback if they hold the ball too long. Apparently, he held it longer than just about anybody in the NFL. Blitz more than just about anybody in the NFL, held the ball longer than just about anybody in the NFL. Not great. Not great. Usually when they start out, sources say, or rumor has it, and fails to name names, it's more than likely a lie. That is not true. The rumor has it, then yeah, you're just throwing something against the wall. But sources say, look, Corey, I know a lot of people are, I'm not saying you're anti-media by any means. This is how you feel. That's it. You're entitled to it. I'm disagreeing with a lot of it just by saying the sources say a lot of times people they don't want their name on the record. They'll tell you the information. They'll give you a quote, but they want to be anonymous. A lot of people said the same thing about the Carson Wentz story, and that turned out to be true. People didn't want to hear it. It was what we needed to hear at the time. But unfortunately, a lot of it turned out to be true. I didn't want it to be true. Hell, you never want to think that the franchise quarterback isn't on your team already. You never want to think that the guy that's making plays for you right now isn't the guy. So when you read all that stuff behind the scenes, that's not great. Fortunately, this stuff isn't as worse as that. The drama part of it isn't nearly as worse as that. The worst part about it is the actual stuff that matters, play on the field. How the Eagles offensive coordinator, the Eagles head coach, the Eagles offensive-minded head coach did nothing to help out their quarterback. Did nothing to help get A.J. Brown back involved. That's the bigger story to me. The personality stuff, that just makes me, all right, I'll file that away for later. If I see that come out next year, that's where I'll really be concerned. But when people say sources say, they're not just making it up. If you have people that are doing that, odds are they're not at the more established what do you call it? Publications. And I know the writer. I've been the subject of one of the. I used the same point to defend Joe Santoliquito years ago when he wrote the story about Carson Wentz, because people said the same thing. He's just making this up, whatever. I have been the subject of a Joe Santoliquito story. All right. The people he called, I was like, I didn't even give you that number. How did you talk to that? Like, the people he called to find out stuff about me, like, the guy is no joke. All right. The guy's more of a detective than he is a writer. He's a hell of a writer, though. So that's big props on being a detective. So I know the lengths he goes to get the story and to get it right. Somebody tried throwing that in my face like it was a reason to be what do you call it? Supportive of Joe. No, not even that. No. I've been the subject. I know the people he taps into to try to get information. He does a great job with it. I will reach out to Joe, though, and see if we can get him on the program. Here you go. Afrado. I hope they change the offensive coordinator too. Looks like they only care about defense. I don't think the offense was an issue. Well, here's the route I think they end up going. I think when it comes to the defensive position, I think they go a similar route of Jim Schwartz. I think they bring in somebody that might not necessarily have head coaching experience, but someone that they feel confident in could slide over and become the head coach if Nick Sirianni goes belly up again next year. That's the route I think they go. So I think, they care about offense more than anything, but on the defensive side of things, I think they're going to go with somebody that has a lot more experience than, say, Jonathan Gannon or Sean Desai. Love the podcast. Mentioned high school. Well, I see high school offense more productive than the Eagles offense this year. Thank you, Lewis. Or Louis. Lewis. Reaching for answers, says Big Ben. BJ not being fired straight away doesn't mean he's not going. Let's be real here. He had another head coaching interview with the Titans. I think he's got 4 now. Twiz, what's going on, Twiz? I'm more pissed of now after watching good football. Lamar figured out the blitz. Can't relate. Shake my head. This weekend was very frustrating. Go Sixers. Johnson is respected throughout the league. He's getting another job. Probably. Watching good quarterback play all weekend made me realize we don't have one. See, I don't. This is something I don't jump to. I don't jump to with a coach losing the locker room. I'll jump to that. I'll be like, get the hell out. And I'll jump. I'll probably be the last one to jump on that boat because I don't just believe in firing everybody all the time. But a quarterback has a down year. Going into that game against the 49ers, he was the odds-on favorite to win the MVP. And then, of course, the air went out of that balloon rather quickly. So I'm not just going to abandon ship on Jalen Hurts. Sean Desai sucked. I concur. Fugazi organization. Frank Dolo? Fugazi organization with the Jet symbol? Are you talking about the Jets or the Eagles? Sirianni is such a fraud. His 3 years of making the playoffs is not on him. 7th seed and a 5th seed. This weak leadership. All right. Real time. Diana Rigatoni. All right, real time. I saw. Oh, come on. There we go. Real time. What's up, man? I saw you make the fake account for Diana Rossini. I love Diana Rossini. You back off, bro. Diana Rigatoni. I did like that she quoted your tweet and said, "This is not me, but I think I will change my name to Diana Rigatoni." He wasn't a bad quarterback, so what changed? Play calling. Defense is getting used to him, knowing him. Money, the banquet tour, all of it. Wait, if Hurts didn't fumble in the Super Bowl, we would have won. He's a good quarterback. Okay, that's an interesting way to put that. Just because, See, I bring up the fumble. People talk about this amazing performance from Jalen Hurts, and yeah, most of it was, but he did fumble on his own. He wasn't hit. He fumbled the football. You can't. When I saw him do that, I went, I don't like the Eagles tonight. Like, I like the Eagles going into the game, but once you spotted Patrick Mahomes 7 points, I was like, I don't think we're going to win this game, fellas. Even it was 10-0, or you're up 10 points at halftime. And people in the green room with me were like, that's a wrap. Mahomes is injured, and the Eagles are going to win. I'm like, man, Mahomes might be injured, but if he's not, I don't like it. Let's see. Mint diggity. This team is playing like they were begging Laurie to fire that joker. I agree, Mint. That was my exact point. Wow. Mint diggity. Good dude is not a great compliment for a top 5 quarterback. I concur. Jeff, what's going on? With the move to only fire Desai, I wonder if Laurie and Howie want Lions Ben Johnson or Ravens Todd Monken and have to wait till their playoff runs end. Both would be good hires, in my opinion. Yeah, I think. Dang, he tailgated with Buffalo fans. Jason Kelsey did tailgate with Buffalo fans, and it was awesome. He also jumped down from the luxury box and walked amongst the people. It was a beautiful thing. Carson Hurts, Jalen Wentz, says Mintiggity. I feel Jason would be a great brother-in-law. Yeah. Like, could you imagine meeting your brother's girlfriend and you're bare-chested 2 seconds later? Taylor's. And let me be on the record with this in case you haven't heard me say this yet. I am pro Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Okay? I'm happy for those two. That is not a joke. I say that with all sincerity. I am rooting for Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce to make it. I am rooting for them to get married one day, and I am rooting for them to have beautiful babies. There you go. Either amazing songwriters and lyricists and musicians, or mutant huge football players that just win Super Bowls. That's what I'm rooting for. You know why? Because I love love. I root for love. Thank you very much. It's my public service announcement. He would be a great representative. Send it. Farzad, let's not act like Nick isn't a puppet. He's not hiring or firing anyone. I tend to agree with you. Having the D line, Sean Kilrain. What's Sean saying here? Go Sixers. Howie straight up can't draft crap. We all can agree. Yeah, let's go Sixers. Please change the Dan Fangio scheme. Yeah. April, I know it's a pipe dream, but I would love to see the Lions beat the Red Cowboys. That would be fun. Mal, what's going on, Mal? The Hurt stuff is so dumb. He acted the same when they was winning. Who cares? That's who he is. No one sees that he does. No one sees what he does behind closed doors. Yeah, they do. Because here's the thing. The closest thing that you get to those closed doors is what you see on the sideline. And did everything look great on the sideline this year? And I'm not one to read body language. I'm not talking about Jalen Hurts sitting there having a conversation with Dallas Goedert, and everyone's like, oh, they're arguing. I'm like, well, maybe not. But it does make me think more about A.J. Brown. And remember how he said that his first sideline spat wasn't about targets? And we were all, including myself, like, yeah, right. My only downshift was like, okay, let's live in a world where we're all wrong and it's not about targets and A.J. Brown's right. What's the next thing that would make him that upset? Not necessarily targets for him, but maybe targets for the franchise, targets for the receiving core, where the franchise quarterback isn't seeing the targets that may or may not be open. If I'm A.J. Brown and I'm boys with Jalen Hurts, I'm the only one that can go off like that, and he knows it comes from a place from love. There we are in love again. So I find that to be interesting. The stuff on the sidelines is very scary. Dank, hello. Robert, what's going on? Fred Warner is a beast as well. Yeah, he's good at football. Wait, what? QB saw a report where the Eagles reached out to Frank Reich, but you die? What? Huh? What? That's an interesting way to put that. Saw a report where the Eagles reached out to her, but I don't know. Wait, okay, so now you're not dead. Good. QB, I'm glad you're not dead. I saw a report where Eagles reached out to Frank Reich, but I don't know how true that is. Back to the banquet tour. Joe Whip. I'm sure they've kicked the tires, but something would tell me that more reports would be out there about the Eagles being interested in potentially Frank Reich taking over, or maybe even coming in as a coach. As a like senior assistant. Jim Bob Cooter is another name that was out there. Joe Whip saying, now we should call him Cole Carson Hurts. Team's going to fall apart. Hurts is overrated. $50 million quarterback. You know who's not overrated? The Escape Artist. What's up, Lil Toots? Did you put your show on? No?
No, but I'm trying to get Israeli, but the TV's not working.
TV's not working? Okay. I'll be up in a little bit, okay? I'm almost done working. Okay. All right. Love you.
Okay, Daddy. I'm trying to stick on you.
Oh, I saw that. Nice job. Little Toots making an appearance. Both coordinators. If you didn't hear that, I'm not Lil Toots. I'm Big Girl. And she doesn't care. Okay. There we go. Two things from this weekend. I noticed teams willing to run the football and linebacker play. Yeah, Jeremy, they were pretty awesome. I'm going to skip down a little bit here. Hello, Camel. I'm not putting your name on the board. Dude was watching Hurts playing in 2022. It's a night and day different. Yeah. It is very different. Jason A, what's going on, by the way? Nice to see you again. Bills fans chucking snowballs at KC players. What about their fans getting on that poop list? Yeah, I agree. Hurts did say he needed to change the leadership style. He did. He did acknowledge that in his end of the press conference. His keep on coming. Why is there always issues in the Eagles locker room? I don't know. You would think with the leadership they have, it wouldn't be that bad. Michael Robinson, what's going on? What does the future look like for A.J. Brown? Very interesting. A.J. Brown being here or not being here will tell you a lot. Hayden, what's going on? Jalen had no problem throwing the middle field last year. Dirty D? All right, whatever. Jalen held the ball so long because these high school routes took so long to develop. I agree. This is why, yes, did Jalen Hurts regress? Absolutely. But the entire offense regressed. Huge step back this year. A.J. Brown going to be requesting a trade. Greg Williams. I saw Greg Williams' name out there, yeah. Diana Rossini's wifey. Who else is in here? A lot of people commenting. Appreciate you. Got Mally. So let the smear campaign begin, I guess. Shelton Smith, is Matt Patricia gone too? Yes, Matt Patricia is also gone. Not renewing his deal is the report. So you're going to get a whole new defensive staff. Offensively, doesn't look like much changing. April, Lil Toots highlighted it. Bright spot of the day for sure. Can't wait to see next year, see what Hurts is before we throw him away, give man another season. I agree. I'm not abandoning the ship on I almost did it, on Jalen Hurts. We got so comfortable winning, says Shaq Diesel. We got so comfortable winning as a winning. Wait, we got so comfortable as a winning program. We might have to get a gut punch next season. I think this season was the gut punch. Wine Niners wine. Appreciate you, Farzy. Stay positive. I am staying positive. Thank you very much. Hello, swinging. Nice to see you. You guys are great. Appreciate everybody in the chat. You guys are wonderful as per usual. All right, let me get into what I absolutely loved this weekend about pro football, because man, it was so much fun. I just want to make sure I go in the proper chronological order here. So let me just get the schedule up. Looking at these games from over the weekend, so many different things. One is that Baltimore is just a force. Houston hung in there, and then Baltimore just absolutely took over in the second half. Lamar Jackson is every bit of the real deal, without question. I mean, look, he's going to win his second MVP award. He was 1-3 going into the playoffs, going into that 1-3 in the playoffs going into last year or going into last night, and he was incredible. He improved to 2-3 in the playoffs. CJ Stroud, I think, is going to have himself, it goes without saying, a very bright career. I think we can all agree on that. No doubt about it. I'm trying to hire McDermott. Yeah, okay. The Green Bay game. So anyway, Baltimore won that one 34-10. Green Bay at San Francisco. So close. Now, it would have really bothered me if, of course, the Packers would have won, because then they knock off the top seed, and then if the Eagles are alive, then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, no, this wasn't close. Like the Eagles were not close. The Eagles would lose to the Packers. Okay, the Eagles would lose to the Packers. So there was that thought of, oh, this could be the Eagles' year, if they just would have won. No, if they just would have won 6 of 7, this wasn't like a couple of games they dropped at the end of the year. They imploded. So that was quickly brushed aside by no, that argument doesn't even hold water. So forget about it. But Jordan Love throwing that ball in the end of the game, absolutely unbelievable. Can't believe he did it after having the games that he had in the playoffs. It was like my buddy Jared texted me, and he was just like, he just turned into Brett Favre. And I was like, wow, he'd been playing like Aaron Rodgers and then morphed into Brett Favre for that final throw. Tampa and Detroit yesterday, what an incredible game that was. Tampa didn't capitalize on enough opportunities, most notably the interception on the first drive of the game by the Lions. They ended up just settling for 3. And Detroit, made the commitment to the run. Jared Goff played out of his mind. That was great. Did see one thing on the sideline, though. Baker Mayfield, directing traffic with his receivers on the sideline and talking to his offensive line. It's something we don't see here in Philadelphia. Take that for whatever you think it is. And again, I'm a Jalen Hurts guy, and I want to see Jalen Hurts do really well next year. And then last night's game, Kansas City at Buffalo. What the hell was Sean McDermott thinking by faking that punt? What the hell was he thinking? Now, he got bailed out as all hell because the Chiefs ended up fumbling the ball out of the end zone, which, of course, is the touchback. So they get bailed out that way, and then they can't do anything with it. And then they go, Josh Allen's driving down the field, fumbles the ball. They end up falling on it. I think Dalton Kincaid falls on it, and then they missed the field goal wide right. That whole game was absolutely insane. But, yeah, everyone's right. You saw teams commit to the run. You saw the great linebacking play. Great coaching for the most part, except for that Sean McDermott decision. Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. So now it's set. Kansas City is going to be taking on the Ravens in the AFC Championship game. And the San Francisco 49ers will take on the Detroit Lions. Holy Stromboli. Holy Stromboli. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. You guys are great as per usual. I am going to reach out to Joe Santoliquito and get more on this story, not just on Jalen Hurts, but on the entire demise of the Eagles 2023 season. Thanks, everybody. My name is Mark Farzetta. Make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you subscribe to Jacob Sports. Make sure you subscribe to the Farzy Show YouTube channel as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be back with you guys tomorrow morning. Until then, have a great rest of your day, everybody. Stay warm.